I built a fortress to keep the world out, but something kept getting in.
My sensors screamed enemy, but my dog ran the other way.
He wasn't protecting me from danger. He was protecting it.
I trained him for war, but he taught me mercy.
When a real stranger finally came, I had to choose who I'd become.
Ben Calder believed the world had already ended. It just hadn't told everyone yet. His cabin sat deep in the Montana wilderness, tucked between granite ridges and dense pine, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. That was by design. Solar panels lay flat against the roof. Rain barrels fed underground storage. Tripwires, pressure plates, and motion sensors formed a 5-mile perimeter that only one man and one dog fully understood. Shepard walked at Ben's left heel, head level, ears rotating like radar dishes. Even at 10 years old, the retired German Shepherd moved with military precision. Iraq had aged his muzzle with gray, but not his instincts. Shepard wasn't just a dog, he was a veteran. "Same route," Ben muttered, adjusting the strap on his rifle. "Same discipline." The perimeter walk was sacred, every morning, every evening. Ben checked the sensors while Shepard checked the world itself. Scents, sounds, things machines couldn't measure. They communicated without words. A pause meant caution. A stiffened tail meant alert. A low growl meant stop. Life out here was simple. Threats were either outside the wire or eliminated before they crossed it, until the sensors on the eastern ridge began to trigger. The first time, Ben blamed weather. Wind shook branches, snow slid off trees, false positives happened. He logged it and moved on. The second time, Shepard stopped dead near the ridge trail, nose lifted, body tense. No bark, no charge, just a soundless warning. "What is it, Shep?" Ben whispered. Shepard didn't look at him. He stared into the trees. That night, the camera feed showed movement, a blur, large enough to trigger motion, too fast to identify. No heat signature long enough to log, no tracks the next morning. Ben slept lighter after that, then lighter still. By the fourth alert, his rifle stayed within arm's reach. He reinforced the eastern traps, reset the cameras, ran diagnostics twice. The system said intrusion. The ground said nothing. "They're probing," Ben said one night, crouched beside Shepard as rain tapped against the cabin windows. "Testing response time, seeing how soft we are." Shepard paced the room, nails clicking against the floor, agitation rolling off him in waves. He paused at the door and let out a low, unsettled whine. "You feel it too," Ben said, almost relieved. "Good, means we're not wrong." But something was off. Shepard wasn't angry, he wasn't aggressive. There was no hackle-raising hostility, no territorial fury. What lived in his chest sounded closer to anxiety, like a warning that didn't know how to become an attack. That night, lightning split the sky, thunder shook the cabin, and then the eastern sensor screamed. Ben grabbed his rifle. Shepard was already at the door, muscles coiled. "Time to work," Ben said, heart pounding. As they stepped into the storm, neither of them noticed one critical detail. The alert wasn't coming from outside the perimeter. It was coming from somewhere Ben had marked safe. What could possibly be triggering Ben's defenses from inside his own protected zone? And why does Shepard seem desperate to run away from the threat instead of toward it? Rain hammered the forest like gunfire. Ben moved fast, boots sinking into mud as lightning flashed through the trees. Shepard stayed just ahead of him, not charging forward like he used to on patrols, but pulling, glancing back, whining under his breath, urgency sharp in every movement. "Easy," Ben snapped. "We approach controlled." The eastern ridge loomed through the storm. This section of the perimeter was supposed to be quiet, no traps dense enough to spook wildlife, no reason for movement. Ben had labeled it low risk. That label now felt like a mistake he might pay for. The sensor pole blinked red. Ben dropped to a knee, scanning through his optic. Trees swayed violently. Rain distorted everything. No figures, no heat, nothing. Shepard circled restlessly, nose to the ground, then froze. His ears flattened, not forward in attack, but sideways, conflicted. He let out a sharp bark, then bolted. "Contact?" Ben shouted, but Shepard didn't run toward the ridge. He ran away from it. "Negative! Shepard, heel!" Ben yelled, adrenaline spiking. The dog vanished into a thicket Ben had personally cleared and marked safe years ago. No sensors, no traps, no reason to go in there. Ben cursed and followed, pushing through branches that clawed at his face. His training screamed danger. You never chase blind. You never break formation. You never trust emotion over perimeter logic. But Shepard wasn't disobeying. He was panicking. Ben caught flashes of movement ahead, mud flying, powerful shoulders straining as Shepard dug furiously at something near the base of a shattered pine tree. Lightning had split the trunk clean down the middle. A massive branch lay angled against the roots. "Shep, stand down!" Ben shouted, rifle raised. Then he heard it, a sound so small it almost disappeared beneath the storm. A whimper. Ben froze. Shepard wasn't attacking. He wasn't tracking. He was pulling with his teeth, paws scraping desperately against the earth. The dog turned, eyes wild, not with aggression, but with fear. Ben lowered the rifle slowly and stepped closer. His flashlight cut through the rain. Under the fallen branch, half buried in mud and needles, was a black bear cub, tiny, terrified, one leg trapped, chest heaving with shallow breaths. "Oh," Ben whispered. Everything clicked at once. The blurred camera images, the sensor triggers without tracks, the night pacing, Shepard's unease. This wasn't reconnaissance, it was desperation. A sudden crashing sound echoed through the trees. Ben snapped his head up just as a massive shape moved between the shadows. A low, guttural huff rolled through the rain. Shepard placed himself instinctively between Ben and the cub, not as a weapon, but as a shield. From the darkness, two eyes reflected the beam of Ben's light. The mother had returned, and this time Ben realized something terrifying. He was the intruder now. With a grieving mother bear only yards away, will Ben cling to his fortress mindset or trust Shepard's instincts before one wrong move turns deadly?
The mother bear stepped fully into the open. She was enormous, muscle and wet fur and raw survival, her breath steaming in the cold rain. She rose onto her hind legs, not charging yet, but claiming space, claiming her cub. Her eyes never left Ben. Ben's training took over before his conscience could catch up. Rifle up, finger indexed along the trigger guard, heart rate spiking. This was a textbook lethal threat. "Shep, stay," he whispered. Shepard didn't move. He stood planted beside the cub, body angled sideways, non-threatening but unyielding. His ears were back, tail low. No growl, no bark, just presence. The bear huffed again, a warning that vibrated in Ben's chest. In Iraq, hesitation got people killed. Out here, hesitation might do the same. Ben's mind split in two. One side ran probabilities, distance, reaction time, bullet drop. The other watched Shepard's eyes. They weren't locked on the bear. They flicked between mother and cub, reading something Ben couldn't. "Easy," he said aloud, though he wasn't sure who he was talking to. Lightning flashed, illuminating the cub's tiny body shaking under the branch. Another whimper escaped it, thin and broken. The bear took a step forward. Shepard responded by sitting. Ben blinked. That single action, so calm, so deliberate, shattered the tension more than any command ever could. Shepard wasn't defying the bear. He was signaling no threat, no challenge.
Ben lowered the rifle inch by inch until the barrel pointed at the ground. "Okay," he breathed. "Okay." The rain softened. The storm seemed to hold its breath. Ben crouched slowly, keeping his movements wide and visible. He grabbed a fallen log nearby, heavy and slick with rain. Shepard immediately understood, shifting to help, bracing his shoulder against the branch, pinning the cub. Together they worked, man and dog, moving without orders, without fear, using the log as a lever. The branch lifted just enough. The cub screamed. The mother lunged forward, stopping just short of them, her claws digging into the mud. "Shep," Ben whispered, voice tight, "stay with me." With one final push, the branch rolled free. The cub scrambled out, limping but alive, and ran straight into its mother's chest. She gathered it with a gentleness that didn't match her size, then backed away slowly, never turning her back on them. Before disappearing into the trees, she paused. Ben could have sworn she looked at Shepard. Then they were gone. Silence flooded the forest, broken only by rain and Ben's ragged breathing. He sank to his knees. Shepard walked over and pressed his forehead into Ben's chest, grounding him. "You knew," he hoarsed. "All this time, you knew." Shepard's tail thumped once. Back at the cabin, hours later, Ben sat staring at the glowing perimeter map. Red lines, green zones, control, safety. But the real threat hadn't come from outside. It had come from his own fear. And for the first time, Ben wondered how many warnings Shepard had given him that he never truly heard. If Ben's entire way of life is built on defense and distrust, what happens when he realizes the perimeter he trusted most was the one inside his own mind?
Morning came quietly, as if the storm had never happened. Mist clung to the trees and sunlight filtered through the pines in thin, fragile beams. Ben stood on the cabin's porch with a mug of black coffee growing cold in his hands. Shepard lay at his feet, eyes half closed, finally at ease. The perimeter screen glowed behind Ben through the open door. All green. For years, that sight had meant victory. Now it felt empty. Ben replayed the night over and over, the raised rifle, a mother bear's eyes, the cub's cry. Most of all, he replayed Shepard sitting down in front of a threat Ben had been trained to eliminate. War had taught Ben how to survive. Shepard had taught him why. Ben knelt and rested a hand on the broad head. "You were never guarding me from them," he said softly. "You were guarding me from myself." Shepard opened one eye, then closed it again. Later that day, Ben did something he hadn't done since building the cabin. He walked the eastern ridge without his rifle, just a sidearm. Then, halfway through, not even that. He found the broken pine where the cub had been trapped. The mud was churned and scarred, but already the forest was reclaiming it. Life moved on, indifferent to fear, resilient beyond walls. Ben reached a sensor pole and hesitated. Then he powered it down. One by one, he disabled the most aggressive traps, ones that didn't distinguish hunger from hostility. He left the cameras, left the alarms. Awareness was still necessary, but domination? That was something else. Shepard watched him work, tail swaying slowly, approving. That night, Ben slept without the rifle beside his bed. It took hours to come, but when it did, it was deep and dreamless. In the days that followed, the forest changed, not because it was different, but because Ben was. He noticed bird calls instead of movement alerts, wind patterns instead of intrusion zones. Shepard stopped pacing at night. The perimeter no longer felt like a battlefield. It felt like a border between neighbors. One evening, Ben and Shepard sat outside as dusk settled. Across the far ridge, a dark shape moved briefly between the trees, too far to identify, too distant to fear. Shepard lifted his head, sniffed the air, then relaxed. Ben smiled. "Good," he said. "Me too." He finally understood the truth he'd been avoiding for years. Survival wasn't about shutting the world out. It was about knowing when to stand down. And the dog he thought he'd trained for war had quietly retrained him for peace. As the stars came out, a final alert pinged softly on the screen inside the cabin. Ben didn't rush for his weapon. He waited. Shepard didn't move. Ben took a breath and let it go. For the first time, he trusted the silence. But when the world eventually does send a real threat across that quiet ridge, will Ben's new way of living be enough? Or has he lowered his guard too far?
The alert came 3 weeks later. Not a scream, not a shriek, just a single deliberate ping. Ben was splitting firewood when it happened. Shepard's head lifted instantly, ears forward, not anxious, not distressed, focused. Ben didn't reach for a weapon. That alone told him how much had changed. They moved together toward the cabin, calm but ready. Ben checked the screen. Western edge, one camera, clear heat signature, human, standing still, not circling, not probing, watching. Ben exhaled slowly. So this is the test. He grabbed binoculars, not the rifle. Through the trees, he spotted the man, mid-40s, backpack slung low, hands visible, posture tired. A hiker? Maybe, but people rarely wandered this deep by accident. Shepard stood beside Ben, alert but quiet. No growl, no hackles. "What do you think, Sergeant?" Ben murmured. Shepard glanced at him once, then back to the figure, neutral, waiting. Ben made his choice. He stepped out into the open. The man noticed immediately and froze. Ben raised one hand, palm out, not a command, not a threat. Shepard sat. "I live here," Ben called, voice steady. "You're on private land. You okay?" The man nodded quickly. "Yeah, sorry. GPS went bad. I didn't realize." Ben studied him. Fear, yes. Deception, no. "There's a creek a mile south. Follow it and you'll hit the main trail before dark." "Thank you," the man said, relief flooding his face. He backed away slowly, then turned and disappeared into the trees. No confrontation, no violence, no ghosts added to the woods. Ben waited long after the screen went green again. Shepard relaxed first. That night, as they sat by the fire, Ben scratched the scar behind Shepard's ear, the one from Mosul, the one he'd traced 1,000 times during sleepless nights. "I thought protecting meant being ready to destroy," Ben said quietly. "You showed me it also means knowing when not to." Shepard leaned into him, steady and warm. Outside, the forest breathed. Somewhere beyond the ridge, the bear and her cub moved through the dark, alive and unafraid. Somewhere farther still, the world went on, dangerous, beautiful, unpredictable. Ben didn't need to dominate it. He just needed to belong to it again. As the fire burned low, Shepard rested his head on Ben's knee. The perimeter held, not because it was armed, but because it was understood.